Okay, if I show how you weld?
Pardon?
Okay, if I show how you weld? No, I mean, I just wanted to see the sparks, you know?
Oh, you can get them online. Go to YouTube.
No, I wanted to see the sparks flying when you weld it.
Just don't look at the
No, yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, these guys are pretty good. I love these guys, you know. I'm telling you, I'm always wait a second. Yeah, so these are my pins. You see, like the guys at the plant gave me a bunch of these pins. These are for their big pins because they're different from mine, like to lock the stinger. But I'm saying I have a tremendous respect for people that are handy with tools, which are, let's put it like this, I have a tremendous respect for people that are handier with tools than me. And of course that's not a difficult criteria to pass because I'm pretty bad with tools, I'm sorry to say, but you know, I'm what they call it intelligent. You know, in Russia there was always a hatred from the side of the Communist Party towards intelligentsia, like, you know, engineers, teachers, you know, that's what they were calling. Basically, you have рабочие, working class, and then you have intelligentsia. And that word was always pronounced with kind of like, you know, some kind of a scorn. So these are like inferior people because they always had some bad, you know, bad ideas about how to shape the society, right? They were always like free thinkers, whereas the Communist Party was pushing this, you know, revolution and kill everybody kind of line, right? And so they always hated the intelligentsia, but that's what I grew up with, right? Even though my late dad was a military pilot, so he was not a worker. He had a post-secondary education, but not a university. Like now all pilots, they all have a university degree, right? Because they also like a pilot engineer. But back then it was just like a 2 or 3 year, kind of like, you know, like a vocational college, right? And my mom was the same. My mom was in, she went to a construction vocational school, kind of like after high school. So she did that. And so they were both kind of like, I guess they were both members of this intelligentsia, you know, intelligentsia. So yeah, I made it into this bay, but there's lots of room in here, actually. See, I knew it. Last time in the summer, I just parked here. They were fixing something. Or on the Fontaine, I think. Yeah, when I was reinforcing the ramps. How one excavator bent like the ramps in the front. Maybe it was the Kaufman, but I remember they welded, they fixed the damage on the ramps, and then they welded. The guy says you should attach like a sheet, you know, maybe like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 millimeters thick and like this wide, attach it on the outsides of the ramp, because that's where a lot of weight goes on, you know, when this excavator goes like this, right? And I remember it was summer, and they just made me go around the block, and I pulled into this lot in here, just parked like that alongside the building, and the guy says get closer so we can get all the lines, you know, and hoses out of the door, and that's it. And they kept working on the other stuff. But for me now, because I booked this appointment, they kept one bay open, you know, and the guy says just so actually I stopped over there, right? It was perfect, because then I was behind this corner where I stopped, and then I just went around here and just went very close here to bring the rear of the trailer as close as possible to the door, and then I just swung like this at 90 degrees to the fence, and then turn left, you know, like they teach you at school. Very easy back, you know, from the driver's side, right? I could see, but I had to stop because I couldn't see the right side. They want to hit the building over there. you can see in the bottom mirror, but that's where we are. You see it says Wabash, and then that's of course US actually trailer company, right? I think they're in the States, right? Wabash, right? They do they make trailers? I forget. But no, I think it's a trailer brand. No, actually, wait. It says authorized dealer Wabash Canada. But I know these guys. They have a bunch of shops. They have trailer sales. Actually, yeah. When you call them, it says press this button for trailer sales. Press this button for service and parts. But this I've been sometimes they charge you too much. But I'm telling you, these guys can do pretty much anything what the plant in Keswick where I picked up the Jeep and Stinger, like these guys can do anything. Welding, brake jobs. I see they're modifying some chassis over there, some trucks, probably installing some boxes on top of a light. The guy next bay is working on a light, something like a 3 or 4 or 5 ton truck, and they're installing something. I see he's connecting some lines in the back, like some electric lines, and he has a small torch, and actually all he was doing, he was melting the plastic on the connectors, and like a tiny little torch, and he sits there on the bench. Whereas in my bay, these two guys using this MIC with these huge containers of gas, and I went over to that guy and I joked, I said, is this what all they allow you to do for now? No, because his little torch, he had this little pocket torch, and I said, they don't allow you to weld like those guys, and he started laughing as well. He says, no, he says, basically, this is all I'm doing for now. The shunt truck driver just came over. He says, he knocked on my door. And he said, what do you guys haul? Like, meaning that, and he says, holy, like, basically it's massive, right? I said, well, up to now I was able to do, I said, like, honest truth, you guys know, right, if you watch my videos, that the biggest load I did without the Jeep and Stinger was, first it was 92,000 pounds or 93, like a John Deere, big John Deere excavator from New York to Ontario, like a while ago when I still had my Mac. And then, of course, I did this Komatsu 490 from PA to Ontario and then back. That was 100,000 pounds. So that's the heaviest load I did so far, right? And I said, but that's the thing. That's the beauty of this setup, is that now I can do, first of all, I can do much more weight. I can do, 120, 125,000 pounds on the deck, which is, should pay considerably better. Or at least that's what I hope. But also, until now, let's say 100,000 pounds, even the same 100,000 pounds that I was able to do on 8 axles here in Eastern Canada and Eastern US, I was not able to do in Western Canada. Because Western Canada, like I always say, I only have 6 axles as far as they're concerned, with 8. So no pusher. They don't recognize it. It has to be chained up or strapped up, or the wheels have to be removed. Not a joke on the pusher axle. If you don't strap it down, they will make you remove the wheels. They're so obsessed with these pusher axles, which to me makes no sense whatsoever. Because they say, oh, they damaged the pavement. How can they damage the pavement? I have steerable axles. Steerable lift axle. How does it damage the pavement? What damages the pavement is a 3-axle trailer that doesn't steer, right? So the more axles in a row, the worse for the pavement. And so, okay, I understand why they don't allow 4-axle trailers, which is another axle I lose over there, right? Because I have a typical dump truck. Check this out. So it's a Mack, and the guy has a big front steerable pusher, and then he has a tandem in the back. So that's a typical dump truck or a garbage truck. So it's all like this in Ontario here, 4-axle truck, right? So big steer, the same pusher, kind of like what I have, right? 20K steer, 20K pusher. And so yeah, so the first advantage, right, of this, we're summing up why I got the Jeep and Stinger. So first of all, I can hold more weight in the same area where I've been operating until now, where up till now I was only able to do 100,000 pounds. So now I can do 120, 125. Secondly, I can go to places where I wasn't able to hold even 100,000 pounds, like Western Canada and further east, like Quebec, or Quebec, as they say, right? Because they don't like my super singles on the pusher. They don't give me enough weight. So now I can lift the pusher and just run on 9 axles, 3 in the truck, steer, tandem, Jeep, and 3 + 1 or 2 + 2 in the back. So more weight in my area and much better geography of loads. So now I can go to Houston, pick up a load for Alberta, or go to Saskatchewan, pick up a load for British Columbia. I'll go to British Columbia, of course not now, but in the summer, why not? I'll go to British Columbia, pick up a load for New Jersey or New York. So it's much better, because now, as you guys know, right, we don't have enough loads in Canada compared to the US market, but we also don't have enough trucks. And that's why our rates are usually a bit better. And so that's why I stopped, I don't complain about this anymore, because you can have 100 cheap loads in US, right, which are no good, and then you can have 2 loads in Canada which pay better. So I'd rather go with that, And basically, I think I always say that it's good to be a specialist, to specialize. And so that's my specialty. My specialty is cross-border heavy haul between Canada and US. On 8 axles, strike that. On 10 axles, because in US I can use the pusher axle, and in Eastern Canada I can use the pusher axle, but Western Canada I gotta lift it. Okay, and so the last segment we'll do, because this video is already gonna be like 3 hours long, like a Titanic. So the last segment we'll do is, once the D-rings are on and they all cool down, we're gonna put this little baby or camera on top of this, and we're gonna reattach the chains to new D-rings. So no more grabbing on the frame. Now it's gonna be, and I'll show you. Actually, I thought I would add only 2 D-rings on the Stinger. I thought that it might be helpful to have 2 more in case we're just lifting the Stinger without the axle, because the axle has D-rings, right? But what if we have to disconnect that? And so I asked them to weld 2 more D-rings on the body, on the main bottom frame, which does not move, because the top moves with the airbag, so you don't want to have D-rings in there. But the bottom is solid frame, and so we'll have 2 and 2 in the Stinger. So it's going to be really cool, easy to work with. So next time chaining is going to be a breeze, but I'll show you in a second. Yeah, went inside to check on the progress, and the shop manager kicked me out. Hey bud, you cannot be inside the shop. Sorry. And I was just reading comments on my previous video, and lots of people are excited and leaving good comments. Thank you very much. I'm excited as well. But one more thing I want to change, as they say, going forward, because this setup will trigger lots of special permits. I'm going to be either too long or too heavy, like a super load, probably like everywhere, because I was just reading my annual permit for Ontario, and it says 32 meters is allowed under that permit. So, and I'm like, okay, meters to feet, 103. So if I'm within 103 feet, and like my weights are, under the permit, which is 78,000 kgs gross, with a Jeep. So 171,000 pounds, I think. So that's only like 100,000 pounds on the deck. So if I'm heavier than that, or if I'm longer than that, I'll need a single trip permit for Ontario. But anyway, so it's going to be a lot of difficult situations, more difficult than before. And I think based on an advice from a friend who just started also in heavy haul, and he did a couple of trips, and he, as the expression goes, pulled his own permits. Pulled permits, meaning he created his own permits. And so I've been thinking about this, and many people were encouraging me to do this, but I thought, hey, what are you saving? Like $22. That's what my permit service company charges me. $22 per permit is their service fee. So they charge you the government fee. Let's say the permit is $300, so they charge me $322 or $23 US, of course, plus the Iowa sales tax. I forgot if they have a sales tax or not. But and so it's not such a bad deal, because these guys are supposed to help you. But whenever you ask them for advice, most of the time they're hesitant to give you advice. They just always try to forward you to the DOT, permit office of the particular state. So basically, what they charge you this money for, it's not for consulting or advice, which basically that's what I need. Or they just charge you for the time, for the labor that they take your application and they open their little software and they plug in all those numbers in all these different websites. It's all electronic. Everything is done by the website, right? So I can definitely do that myself. But the biggest deal, the biggest beef I have with all these permit companies, not just like this one, but the previous one I used before. I tried a couple of smaller ones. It's time. Of course, because this is their business, right? They're not just working with me, they're working with hundreds of other people and truckers, and they don't work on weekends. Whereas most websites operate 24/7. And so when I spend time filling out an application form, but I do one application where I put all my Excel spacings. Actually, they're already pre-filled in there, but I just have to put in my load information there. It's like a PDF form. I send one form to the permit company, so it's supposed to save you time, right? Because instead of dealing with, let's say, 5 or 10 states, I just fill it out once. But because there's always people in front of me, and I send them that permit request, let's say Monday morning, they might not get to it until Monday night, or Monday at 3 or 4 o'clock, and so you're sitting there waiting for the permit, bugging them, hey, any news on the PA or New York, but they're too busy. So too busy, and secondly, there's rarely any advice, except I'm dealing with this nice lady, like she's okay, but whenever I hit like the main office and I deal with the kind of like reception accounting lady there, that one is always, well, we're not here to provide consulting or advice. So basically all they do is just processing, right? Again, which I have the computer, I have the internet access, right? And so I thought it would be quicker, right, to have these people deal with this, but actually it's not quicker. It's much slower. And secondly, there's no advice. And what's the other one? And last but not least, they don't work on weekends, right? And so I want to try with this new setup, especially, I want to learn all these intricacies, and that's how you learn. You learn by doing these permits yourself, because again, I'm going to be very long, might be super heavy, right? No, this time it's only 79,000 pounds from Alberta, but I can be 120, 125, so my gross can be like 200,000 pounds, I want to know those requirements before I bid on a load. Let's say a guy calls me, hey, we gotta move this 110,000 pound machine, let's say from Massachusetts to Ontario. Well, I know right away that Massachusetts is a no-go unless they want to pay $10,000 for a survey, because the maximum is like 130,000 pounds. So I will say, hey, you do the survey, you pay for that. So the only way, for example, now I know from Massachusetts to move a heavy load, if the customer takes care of all the permits. You do the permits, they'll take a month with all the surveys, then you tell me when it's ready, I'll go there, pick it up. But I'm not gonna go load and then sit there for 4 weeks waiting for all this stuff, right? So I need to know this. And like I said, that's the only way to do it is, you know, you learn by doing, right? So like as we used to say in university when I was learning English, they were saying, learn to swim by swimming, learn to speak by speaking. So, and and this buddy says, so it actually is going to be easier for me. I don't have to register a new account, a new username and password in all the states because I already have everything registered, right? Because my permit company, yeah, look at this. You see a 4-axle flatbed trailer with a Conestoga. Nice. So 3 in the back and 1 pusher axle. So these are quite typical here. They're quite typical in Ontario, multi-axle trailers, more than 3, or at least 2. But anyway, so yeah, so that's the plan. So that's one more thing I hope will change, is that I gotta learn. And and so what he said is that because I have already the account in all DOT offices, right? Otherwise the permit service company would not be able to give me permits or pull permits. So now he said all you gotta do is find a way to allow you access. So I'm gonna ask the permit company about this. Of course, they're not gonna be very happy because they've been making lots of money on me, but I need to do this. So I'll ask them, and then I guess I'll just email or call all these DOT offices. But I'm gonna start like small, but pretty much like whenever the trip takes me, right? Because for example, I don't need to do all these 47, 48 states. Because some of them I go very rarely, right? But most, like New York, PA, Maryland, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, for example, these ones I go all the time to. But for now, I'm gonna start by Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario. I'll do these 4 on the next trip myself. And we'll go from there. Oh, and one cool thing about Ontario is that they can save your file, right? They can save all these configurations and axles. Let's say for the Jeep and Stinger, right? And then we call it, let's say, hey, configuration, B, like A was a regular 8-axle. And I say, hey, configuration B now for me is this setup, tandem Jeep and 3+1 Stinger. And so next time I have a load like similar to that one, where I have the same axles, they have all the info, so it'll be much faster for them to issue a permit. That's what a guy from a crane company told me. He says, make sure they save your configuration. And again, that's not possible with a permit company when they do this. I need to do it myself. My truck. So brought my truck here, jumped into my car, drove the car back to Cambridge, grabbed Uber, came back here. And by the way, this is the bill. So it turns out Go Right, that's now the name of that dealer. But over here it says Wabash, Canada, but they say they changed their name. But so I installed 10 D-rings, so 6 on the Jeep and 4 on the Stinger. So labor $254 and paint $12. And so the total was that's Canadian, $324.85, but 37.37 tax I will get back. So basically $287.48 is price before taxes. So what is it, like 70, 40, maybe 170 bucks? Not too bad. But of course this should have been done by the factory. But what do you do? At least I got some free D-rings. I love that. I hope we put them in proper place, you know, because of course removing them, it's a pain in the butt, but I hope it'll work. But one thing I learned, I don't know, did I mention this? But I talked to this buddy in Western Canada. They run like this with this setup, you know, Jeep and Stinger. And I asked him how they load them, and he said actually they load the Stinger on top of the Jeep, and they put the wheels of the Stinger, kind of like cradle them between the wheels of the Jeep. But I cannot do that because I have fenders, you know. But they say that's much easier. Basically, I guess they load the Jeep, they load the Stinger first on the Jeep, you know, and then they secure the Stinger to the Jeep, and then they lift everything. And of course, this way you can run as 2+2, so you can have a tandem Stinger. And you can run much shorter, which is of course great because you can save on fuel. You short, easy to turn, you know. All right, so I just did my ACE manifest, because going into US you have to do it even when you're empty. Into Canada, you only have to do it if you have a trailer. If you're just bobtailing, you don't have to do it. But US, they want this pre-notification via the computer all the time. And so I did this. I said going empty because I want to go through US like this. I don't want to go through Canada again. It's much slower. Weather is worse. And most importantly, the fuel is much more money, right? So we're going to go through Port Huron, through Chicago. And then it's been ages since I crossed over there, going basically on 94 all the way to Portal, North Dakota, right past the Trail King plant. And then we're gonna cross back into Canada in Portal, Saskatchewan, which is on the other side of the border. Like Portal, North Dakota is here. On the Canadian side, actually, it's called North Portal, because I guess the name Portal was already taken, so the Saskatchewan guys, all right, what can we do? Okay, North Portal, bingo. So North Portal SK, and then that's just like the quickest way towards Calgary, Alberta. So I hope I'll be there Monday, Tuesday, and now it's like minus 40F over there, minus 38C. But they said next week it's going to be plus 4 or 36F. So we'll make it much easier to load. And of course, this is going to be a nightmare for me, first time to do this with the Jeep, the Stinger. My biggest concern is that I just hope that the Stinger will fit. All right, so the manifest is done because they were like 2 hours advance notice. So this is Kitchener. So now we're going to go on 401 to the Flying J in London, Ontario. We're going to grab some cheap DF at the pump. And then I'm going to have a lunch down there, and then we're going to rehook all my chains because I was waiting for the new D-rings, you know, because they painted them, right? I didn't want to hook right away, so hopefully by the time I'm done with my lunch, the D-rings will be dry. And we're going to rehook all the chains properly, and I'll show you that. And I took a bunch of pictures actually here. My truck is very dirty because I just came from Northern Ontario, right? So we'll do some nicer pictures later, but for now, these should do. And then one more thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to show you the D-rings and how I secure them, and also I'll show you Flying J. They have this overpriced scale, which used to be $12, then now it became $20 Canadian, so 14 US. But I want to do it now, but I only have what, like about 50% of fuel. But still, it will give me an idea. I want to know, am I 70,000 pounds? Am I 71, 72? But we're going to add, I can probably take 100 gallons of fuel, which can be 700 pounds. We're going to add that. So I might do it in US because it's much cheaper over there, but we'll see. For now, I just want to go to Flying J, get DEF, and get some food in me, and then we'll start trucking to the border and cross into Michigan. Probably will shut down somewhere in Michigan because again they cannot load me over there on the weekend, so there's actually no rush. So it's kind of like a mini vacation, just driving along, whistling, you know, enjoying the landscape and answering questions from the concerned public about what are you guys hauling with this stuff.